In tonight's headlines, Seng Index surpasses the 21,000 mark to close at its highest level in more than 1.5 years, with a record-breaking turnover of $505 billion. The city sees a deficit of over $180 billion for the first 5 months of the current fiscal year. And the family of a young girl who suffered a cardiac arrest while receiving stitches in Yan Chai Hospital is considering civil action against the 2 medical staff who are charged with child abuse.
Driven by a torrent of capital rushing into the mainland and local stock markets on the last trading day of the quarter and ahead of the National Day holidays, day trade turnover at the city's bourse set a record high of $500 billion, with the Seng Index busting above 21,000 points, reaching a level not seen in 1.5 years. Opening 543 points higher, the benchmark index once reached 21,488 points, the highest level since last February. It concluded the day up 501 points at 21,133 points amid a record turnover of $505.8 billion. For the month, the benchmark surged 17% in September, logging the biggest monthly rise in almost 2 years, whereas for the quarter, the index mounted 19%, marking the best rally since the second quarter of 2009. Mainland property stocks led the market after several first-tier cities scrapped their home buying restrictions, with Longfor Group climbing almost 10%. Shares of Sunak shot up more than 50%. Brokers outperformed the market amid the influx of capital, with both CITIC Securities and Guotai Junan added some 20%. Best Leung Cable News.
The SAR government recorded a fiscal deficit of more than $180 billion for the first 5 months of the current financial year. As of August 31st, the government's total expenditure amounted to $302.8 billion, with a revenue of $101.8 billion. After taking into account the proceeds of $24.9 billion received from the issuance of government bonds and the repayment of $7.8 billion principal on government bonds, a deficit of $183.9 billion was recorded, up $48.5 billion from July. The government explained that some major types of revenue, including salaries and profits taxes, are mostly received towards the end of a financial year, resulting in the deficit for the period. Meanwhile, the fiscal reserves stood at $550.7 billion as of the end of August.
The father of the 4-year-old girl who suffered a cardiac arrest during a stitching procedure at Yan Chai Hospital publicly condemned the hospital after the 2 involved staff faced child abuse charges in court.
I
saw the dark sides of this hospital. I trusted them so much and gave them 2 chances to speak the truth, but they did not. That's why I went to the police. Shame on the hospital. God will punish you for causing damage to my family, he said tearfully. In addition, the father pointed out that the hospital has previously stated it will investigate whether the child had any underlying health conditions at the time, a move that he described as a damaging accusation against his daughter. He has instructed his lawyer to contact the hospital authority to uncover the truth and is considering legal action for civil compensation. Earlier today, the involved registered nurse Chen Ting-wing, 26, and patient care assistant Wan Mei-kwan, 62, were both charged with ill treatment or neglect by those in charge of a child. The cardiac arrest occurred on May 25th in Yan Chai Hospital, while the staff were stitching the girl's head wound in the emergency room. During the procedure, the girl's heart stopped for 18 minutes. Although she regained consciousness after emergency treatment, her condition remains critical. At the hearing, the suspects were not required to enter a plea. Shatin magistrate granted them bail set at $10,000 and prohibited them from leaving the city. They were also instructed to refrain from contacting any potential witnesses and to report to the police twice a week. The case has been adjourned until December 23rd, allowing police to conduct further investigations, including obtaining the girl's medical report and witness testimonies. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
A Hong Kong court ruled today that Chen Kikao, an elderly activist commonly referred to as Grandpa Chen, has a case to answer regarding allegations of breaching country park regulations last year. Chen, known for his involvement with the protest group Protect Our Kids during the 2019 social unrest, is facing charges related to displaying banners without the requisite permits on Lion Rock last September. Country parks and special areas regulations state that visitors cannot display signs, notices, posters, banners, or advertisements in places under the regulations unless they have permission. Violating the regulation can result in fines and even imprisonment. In today's hearing, the defense acknowledged that Chen brought 3 banners to the site, and the court decided that there was sufficient preliminary evidence to proceed with the trial. The 3 witnesses of prosecution appeared in court today agreed the content of the banners did not violate the national security law, and there was a lack of guidance for the public to seek permission from authorities. But the defense will still have to contest the legal interpretation of what constitutes displaying these banners, as well as raising constitutional issues related to the case. The court proceedings will continue on October 30th, for both sides making closing submissions. Until then, Chen has been granted bail. Quentin Yang, Cable News. The 86-year-old British judge Nicholas Phillips is stepping down from Hong Kong's Court of Final Appeal after 12 years of service, citing personal reasons. The judiciary confirmed that his term will not be extended upon its expiration on September 30th, and commended his valuable contributions and the support for the rule of law. Phillips is the 5th overseas non-permanent judge leaving the top court in 2024, bringing down the number of non-permanent judges to 10, with 6 from abroad. Despite recent departures, the judiciary noted that a significant majority of both incumbent and former non-permanent judges have reaffirmed their confidence in judicial independence in Hong Kong and the commitment of its courts to uphold the rule of law.
President Xi Jinping and other party and state leaders attended a tribute-paying ceremony this morning at Tiananmen Square in Beijing and presented flower baskets to fallen heroes in observance of Martyrs' Day. The ceremony began with a military honor guard from the Army, Navy, and Air Force marching to the monument to the people's heroes, standing at attention on either side, symbolizing their commitment to safeguarding the martyrs' spirits. Following the national anthem, attendees observed a minute of silence facing the monument. The honor guards placed flower baskets presented by the leaders at the base of the monument. Xi tidied up the condolence ribbons on the flower baskets and led the group in a slow procession around the monument, while students, military personnel, and representatives from all walks of life laid flowers in tribute. The ceremony lasted about 30 minutes. In 2014, the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress established September 30th as Martyrs' Day to honor those who sacrificed for the nation. Typhoon Kraton is gradually approaching Taiwan with expected landfall on Wednesday morning in the southern part of the island. Authorities have issued typhoon warnings for both land and sea, as many regions are experiencing heavy rain and fierce winds due to its outer circulation. Low-lying areas in the Hengchun Peninsula are facing flooding, and Taichung City has also reported water accumulation. As a result of the typhoon, several ferry routes, including those between Keelung and Matsu, have been suspended. Work and school were cancelled on Orchard Island, as well as in Hualien and Pingcheng. Scenic areas such as Alishan and Hehuanshan are also closed. The Meteorological Agency has indicated that Kraton is gradually intensifying, with the wind radius continuing to expand. Meanwhile, in Hong Kong, the storm is now within 800 kilometers of the SAR. The observatory has indicated that while there is no direct threat to the city, residents should brace for hot weather today and tomorrow, with stronger winds expected on Wednesday and Thursday.
Fears of an escalation of deadly clashes in the Middle East continue to grow as Israel kept up its bombing campaign against Iran-backed militia groups of Hezbollah in Lebanon, as well as Houthi in Yemen. Overnight on Monday, Israel expanded its airstrikes from southern suburbs of the Lebanese capital Beirut that allegedly houses Hezbollah headquarters to its central areas, which killed at least a dozen, according to Lebanon's Ministry of Public Health. A Palestinian militant group, the Popular Front of the Liberation of Palestine, said 3 senior figures were killed in the attack. There was no immediate comment from Israel's military, but the expansion of airstrikes threw into doubt which areas of the city were still safe from Israel's attack. So far, over 1 million people have been forced to flee for safety across Lebanon, according to Prime Minister Najib Mikati, calling on a diplomatic resolution of the crisis. Meanwhile, Yemen also underwent the biggest airstrike yet seen in the near year-long crisis on Sunday, as Israel bombarded Houthi-controlled port of Hodeidah, targeting fuel facilities, power plants, and docks. At least 4 were killed and 33 wounded, according to local media. Israeli military described the attack as a payback for Houthis' month-long assault against them. On Saturday, Houthi launched a ballistic missile towards Israel's main international airport when Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli prime minister, was arriving. It was intercepted by the Israeli Defense Forces. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant called the strikes impressive, saying it sent a message to those who try to attack us or harm the citizens of Israel that they will pay a very heavy price. U.S. President Joe Biden said an all-out war must be avoided, and he will be talking to Netanyahu on the matter soon. Quentin Yang, Cable News.
Mainland authorities rolled out a wave of policies overnight to stabilize the real estate market. Guangzhou became the first top-tier city to scrap all restrictions on home purchases, which include removing the limit of number of home purchases and ceasing to scrutinize home buyers' eligibility. While Shanghai and Shenzhen said they would ease curbs on housing purchases by non-local buyers and lower the minimum down payment ratio for first home buyers to no less than 15%. Separately, the central bank announced on Sunday a significant reduction in mortgage rates for existing home loans, with an average estimated reduction of 0.5 percentage points. And commercial banks are required to carry out the adjustment for eligible existing mortgages by October 31st. The easing came after Chinese leaders pledged last week at a Politburo meeting to strive to achieve the 2024 economic growth target of roughly 5% and halt declines in the housing market.